Have you guys talked at all about the Euro crisis?
Yes.
That's what I do. You know, I moved here in this job in 2007, and at that time, what I would do is I would say from Sunday to Tuesday I would be in Budapest, Hungary, and then I would come back for 2 days, and then I would go to Kosovo for two or 3 days, and then the following week I would spend a week in Warsaw, and sometimes I would write about a racehorse or a museum opening or an election or whatever it was, and it was all over the region, and it was all completely different. Now I am in Berlin, I'm at the finance ministry, I'm at the chancellery, and I'm just studying the Euro crisis. And so I think it kind of tells you just how nervous people are, just how scared they are, and just how focused they are on Germany as a political power, rather than maybe 5 years ago when people were interested more in reading an article about Oktoberfest or other kind of lighter subjects. Do you guys learn about the pigs? No. Okay. At the beginning of the Euro crisis, oh, this is not Animal Farm, sorry. At the beginning of the Euro crisis, somebody noticed that the less competitive countries were Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. There was basically this idea that these are the bad guys. These are the guys who are lazy and take all the money that's given to them by the European Union, never do anything sort of useful with it, and then come back with their hands out again when it's all kind of over. But they forget to say sort of how did they get the money in the first place? Well, it's like, well, somebody loaned it to them. Somebody really liked that system where you loan them money and you get a lot more money back, and never sort of thought about whether they would really be able to pay it back at the end of the day. Financial markets are a lot about trust. And right now, nobody trusts the Greeks with their money, nobody trusts the Portuguese, nobody trusts the Irish. People kind of trust the Spanish, so they're like, okay, I'll give you my money, but you have to pay me a lot of interest to hold it. But everybody trusts the Germans. So the Germans are people are actually paying. So normally if I go to a bank, I'll say, you can have my $100 for the year, but I want $102 when you give it back to me. Right now, people are coming to Germany and saying, you can have my $100, but I want 98 back at the end of the year. Literally, people are so nervous about what's going to happen with their money. And so for Germany, that's great. Because, I mean, they can borrow money for less than nothing. And they do really well because they are better at building things than other people, in Europe. So the Greeks have to keep buying, the cars or the factory machines from Germany, but the Germans don't actually have to really buy anything from the Greeks. And so everybody here kind of knows in the back of their mind that something bad is happening in Europe, but it's really impossible to kind of bring the difficulties that are happening in Athens home to people who have better jobs and better pay than they've ever had before. How do you feel when you're in Europe and you hear people talking about the crisis and about Greece and about how poor the people are and about austerity, even though the Greeks, I think, are per capita much richer than the people in Ecuador?
I feel really detached because, from my experience here, you don't really see that. You look out into the city and there's big skyscrapers and all this polished up things, which is really different from back home, which is in Thailand. And before I came to Europe and to Berlin, I actually didn't know a lot about the Euro crisis because it was just worlds away from all the problems we have back home.
Yeah. Germany is actually in the opposite of a crisis. Everybody knows that at some point the crisis will be felt here, but basically financial markets are like houses of cards. You would think that if you just pulled this card out that these two floors of the house of cards would collapse, but then in fact sort of the whole thing does. And so I mean the officials that you talk to at the finance ministry are really scared. The United States is really scared just of what could happen from sort of coming across the Atlantic. So I mean I think it's a very serious issue.